Problem 120 is now putting together several ideas from the previous lessons. So when we look at the graph that we have, it's asked what appears to be an integer solution. So our equation is when it equals 0, so I'm looking at x-intercepts. I have 3 x-intercepts. When I look at those 3, that one right there looks like it actually touches an integer, and that is at -7. That one right there looks like it's not quite to -1, so it's going to be a decimal. And that one is not quite at +3, it's somewhere between 2 and 3, so that's also a decimal. So the integer solution would be that one. So problem B says, can we check that into our equation? So what I want to do then is take the equation here that we have, and -7 in parentheses cubed plus 5 times -7 squared minus 16 times -7 minus 14, does that equal 0? If it does equal 0, that means that -7 is a solution to this. So now I'm going to use our calculator and put some of these numbers in. -7 to the third, that's going to be a -343. And then I take 5 times -7 squared, so -7 squared is going to be positive, and then multiply that by 5. So now I get plus 245. Then I have -16 times -7, also going to be a positive, because 2 negatives multiply together. So I get positive 112, and then minus 14, and does that equal 0? So combining all the like terms on the left, and it does equal 0. So 0 equals 0. That means -7 now is a solution. We verified it. So the next part now, problem C, is saying that if -7, x equals -7, was a solution, what is the factor? So if we're using zero product property in reverse, so if I have x equals -7, that means I want to move that to the other side and get it back equal to 0. So my factor is x plus 7, because if I have x plus 7 equals 0, 0 product property makes that work out to -7. So my factor now is x plus 7. If I know that that is a factor, I now can use polynomial division with this polynomial to find my other factor. So I'm now going to set that up. X and plus 7. So now I have an x cubed, so I can solve for the top. It's x squared, and I get 7x squared. Then it has to add up to a 5x squared, so this has to be a -2x squared. Make that a -2x. And multiplying through, I get a -14x. They have to add up to a -16x, so that has to be a -2x, which makes that -2 up top. And multiplying it through, I get -14, which works with that number right here, so it divides evenly. And it should divide evenly because we found out already that that is a factor, because it was -7 was a root. So now my answer, the other factor, is going to be x squared minus 2x minus 2. So now looking at the next part of this problem. We can rewrite this in factored form now as x plus 7 times this solution that from our last problem equals 0. Now using zero product property, we can get all of our solutions. We've already talked about this one. I get x equals a -7. This one now I need to go through and solve. So now my options are factor in zero product property with that quadratic. It's not factorable, so I can't do that. I could try completing the square, or I could do the quadratic formula. I'm just going to do the quadratic formula for this problem. So I have x equals 2 plus or minus square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 2, all over 2 times 1. So that gives me 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 8 over 2. I'm going to switch to a new screen here to work with that part. So now I have 2 plus or minus the square root of 12 over 2. Square root of 12 can be simplified. Square root of 12 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 3 is 2 square roots of 3. So now I have 2 plus or minus 2 square roots of 3 over 2. And both terms of my numerator can be divided by my denominator, so I simplify this down to 1 plus or minus the square root of 3. So now, when I look at my solutions to this problem, it's a third degree polynomial. There are 3 roots. One of them is negative 7, and the other 2 are these 2 right here. And that comes from our quadratic factor. So I have 1 plus the square root of 3, and I have 1 minus the square root of 3. You could just write it as 1 plus or minus the square root of 3 as well. But those are now our 3 solutions. Hope that helps.